Let me preface this by saying that I've actually already beaten the entirety of Champions of the Continent's main story, so I know who are the good guys, the bad guys, and who's going to betray us, and everything like that. So the way I'm going to be looking at Octopath Traveler 0 is not going to be the same as other people. While I imagine most people will be seeing it as a completely brand new game, I will be seeing it from the perspective of, okay, so what's new? What have they changed in the main story and all of that? With that said, I'm not going to spoil anything from the main story, except for what's in the prologue, because that's in the trailer and it's also in the demo. And just to note, the footage you'll be seeing in this video is a mix of the Zero trailers, the character reveals from the Japanese Twitter, and some random Champions gameplay, because it's easier to record on phone than it is on console. I actually intended to do this kind of video at the time of Zero's announcement, but evidently I didn't do it, so instead I'm doing it after the 3-hour demo that recently dropped. But in case you want my reaction to Zero's announcement, it was a mix of happiness, confusion, and a bit of concern. I'm a big Octopath Traveler fan, so I was happy in that way. Not to mention the fact that there is now a more reasonable method of playing the game that doesn't resort to gacha. But that's where the concern kind of lies, because if it's just moving the gacha game to the console, what's in it for us who have already played Champions to completion? There's the new Wishvale content. I imagine there's going to be some adjustments in the main campaign, but I do fear that it's essentially going to be telling the story one for one. And to be fair, I'm in the minority. I don't think that many people, especially in the West, have actually played Champions, and I don't blame them in the slightest. And the confusion part is simply because at the time, in the Nintendo Direct, the previous trailer that they had just revealed was The Adventures of Elliot, which was another HD 2D game, and I was thinking, do we need another HD 2D game? I want to start off with the silent protagonist because I am somewhat torn on this. In Champions of the Continent, the one you had in lead, or the one you designated as your favourite, was the chosen one, and in story cutscenes they were always mute. However, you know that outside of that they have their own character because of traveller stories and all that. But in Zero, your character is completely mute. They'll make grunts and stuff during battle, but nowhere outside. I'm not sure about path actions, but they're otherwise completely mute and actually have no character. It became a bit of an issue to me when cutscenes such as when Zero's mother died, that's what I'm referring to the protagonist as, hopefully it doesn't cause any confusion, where like when Zero's mother dies, there's like no voice clips, and because of the limited animation, it comes off as, I just don't take it seriously, really. I'm not really sold on it. This isn't the only, like Octopath isn't the only game that's ever had this issue, might just be a me thing. As for the customization, I don't think it's that bad. Like, you know, you get to choose your hairstyle, hair color, eye color even. Just, you know, very tiny pixel, but whatever. That being said, I had to question some of the choices. Like, for example, you can make your eyes either normal or narrow. But why would you ever do that? I don't understand why they even made this an option, because do you know how small these sprites are? This is like actually a single pixel difference. Even if it was using Octopath 2 style, the difference would still be negligible. Later on in the story, you get an opportunity to choose the job for your character. That's nice. Getting a bit ahead of myself, but I have a feeling that this game might be balanced around being as versatile as possible with your setup. Going into the demo, I was honestly hoping I could get a taste of how the 8 Traveler battle system would work, because it's now similar but different to the way it operates in Champions and, spoiler warning, the final boss of the second game. But I didn't get a chance to. I mean, I did around for too long. From the trailer, it looked like you could apply tactics such as putting a slow character and a super fast character on the same row, and then effectively force a fast character to become last or a slow character to go first, and I think things like that will be cool. But yeah, I didn't get to sample this much, so I can't speak on its functionality and how it affected my thought process during a battle. It's a shame too, because I actually thought there was a really good opportunity to just throw the player into a sudden 8-player battle, and that would be when Wishvale was burning. Like, I don't know, they could have got Zero, Steer, Fen, and the Captain of the Watch to be like 4 characters, and then the last 4 characters can be like 4 townspeople that just happen to be in the area, and just make it an unwinnable fight. you can make it an unwinnable fight, but the game doesn't teach you anything. So in the midst of the crowd's chaos and panic, you as a player would also have at least a semblance of that kind of feeling like, oh god, what the hell's going on? I suddenly got 8 characters and I don't know how to operate this. Because otherwise the game is basically just Octopath. There's turns, everyone makes their move according to speed, but unlike Champions, you can now guard, you can use items, and your skill limit is thankfully no longer capped at 4. The ultimates replace the latent skills from 2, and just like Champions, they're fancy moves that typically have greater effect than their normal kit. That said, I didn't get to use this at all. I also, I think I read that you can actually upgrade the ultimates to like level 2 and level 3, but I didn't know how to trigger those. Or I'm done. I do fear how difficult Zero will get though. Champions is not exactly easy, at least in my opinion it's not very easy. It might be easier now because of power creep and all that, but Champions gameplay is effectively balanced around using a ton of multi-hit moves that require no boost. As a result of this, a lot of the bosses have shield points that frequently exceed the 30s. And near the end game, you also get equipments that you can upgrade and apply souls to. And I honestly hope I don't have to do that again, because it was very stressful and it wasn't very fun. Or maybe that's because I've already gone through all that and I don't want to do it again. When I wasn't battling, checking the menus as usual to see what I could equip on them, they made character customization kind of interesting. Characters in general were kind of more interesting, to be honest. They still fall into typical Octopath jobs, but I noticed the weapon combinations they had were a bit weirder than usual, in ways I can't exactly describe, but you just don't normally see them. On the topic of weapons though, I'm not very fond of the fact that they brought back fans and tomes from Champions. Like, they added those into the game specifically because every job in that game represented a weapon. But now we don't have that limitation, so I don't think they need it. I noticed that unlike mainline Octopath, every character can apply up to 2 passives and 3 learn skills, effectively more customization slots, which on top of the regular equipment seems pretty daunting to me. As long as we get new gear and stuff to frequently satisfy the constant stream of 8 travelers. And this is on top of the temporary NPC recruits, which I'm not as bothered by because I've always thought they were pretty useless. As for the overworld, okay, so to start positive, they added an actual mini-map on the bottom right instead of that dumb radar. Very grateful, thank you very much. The rest is on the negative side, or at least nitpicks. The main one is concerning map design, because from what I have gleaned, not including any of the new areas, they seem to be completely identical to Champions, which includes the mini dead ends where they would normally house the elite monsters. According to one of my friends who's also played the demo, he did encounter some elite monsters, so either they've been moved around, or they are reserved for traveler stories, or something. I don't know. There's also the path actions, like any other Octopath game. It operates like Champions purchase, contend, and entreat system. And I don't mind, this is fine, but I'm not sure if this is just me, but I had a bit of a hard time discerning which icon represented what. I could always tell by sound, but just not by looking at the icon. And it was easier in Champions because everything was color-coded. But yeah, this could just be a me thing. Oh yeah, I nearly forgot about the town building aspects because it is the one thing I didn't do in my demo run. So everything I'm going to be saying here is just from what my friend has told me. And from what I have been told, you place houses to decorate a town, and if you put travelers in like the houses, you get extra buffs and benefits like extra JP, and that's cool, that's nice. And I don't actually have a problem with this at all. My main concern is more so around the capacity, because depending on which console you get it on, you either had more or less things you could put on. And the Switch version has a capacity of 250 objects, while every other system is either 400 or 500. And I'm hoping that basically I'm not going to be playing on hard mode by playing on the Switch. And I'm saying this because I'm going to be playing the Switch version. I could get the PS5 version, but I kind of want to keep all the Octopath games on one system, and I don't own a Switch too, yet. So graphically, this is probably the most nitpicky thing ever. But again, start positive with this whole thing. I still like that Zero is adopting the really fancy camera that games like Octopath 2 and Live Live used. In fact, I would probably go and say I think it's an upgrade from both of them, because some of the angles they showed off in Zero were like really wild, like bird's eye shots, and some of the pans and dollies they did were pushed even further, and I quite like it. And that's effectively where my praise ends. Firstly, a nitpick, the art style has reverted back to Octopath 1 instead of Octopath 2's taller and detailed sprites. I wonder how many of you actually noticed. The battle transitions went back to the instant black screen instead of two softer fade outs. Not really a big deal, it's just a preference. It was kind of hard on the eyes, honestly, with the instant black. What I do find more troublesome is the less amounts of animation there seems to be. Most characters use the same kind of static poses, and I found it a lot more rare to see unique ones. Like in the prologue, I probably only saw one unique animation, maybe two. But I don't remember the one when Steel was crying. And I understand these are some tiny sprites, but even 2 with its like a few pixels tall of sprites, they had a lot of unique animations per character, and even in battle to the point where it was almost just like not surprising to see something so detailed. I'm at least glad that enemies, especially bosses, have unique animations because first of all, they look good, but second of all, I look forward to seeing some of the later bosses and seeing what fancy animations they give them. The world, however, it looks worse. It actually just looks like Champions of the Continent. The pixel definition is a lot more obvious and is nowhere near as polished as I'd like, especially nothing like 2. But I can overlook this kind of stuff. You know, it's fine, whatever. What I can't overlook is the transitions. If you ever played the mobile game, you might notice that whenever there's a scenery change of some sort, the game will, instead of actually like moving an object or something, it will just be a fade out and fade in. And like the graphics, it's budgeted on the mobile game. It's fine. Not very elegant, but it's fine. So kind of me surprised when I find out this exact same trait is back in Zero, in the console version. Like when Wishvale was set ablaze, the fire didn't just like slowly appear and the skybox changed from blue to black or whatever color it is. No, it like faded in and out like 2 or 3 times just to show the fire's growth, and it was not very. It took me out of the experience. It wasn't good, and from what I've been told, this issue persists throughout. So what is this? Musically it's fine. Yasunori Nishiki-san did it again. It's not entirely perfect though, because there's still a lot of songs I noticed from Octopath 1 and Champions with only one song I recognise from 2. And I guess this makes sense, we're still in Ostera and this is obviously the Champion storyline we're dealing with. The new songs, like the title theme, I like that. I like Decisive Battle 4? 0? I don't actually know the name of it. Yeah, that was good. I wasn't really feeling the new main battle theme though. And in terms of voice acting, if I may like briefly bring that up, I'm playing in Japanese because I want to, and it was good. Nothing exceptional, about as good as the mobile game even. I did kind of find some of the audio mixing was a bit off. I thought that Steer's voice seemed to suddenly get louder during battle. My friend was playing in English, however, and all seemed well, but they did tell me Fra's voice, Fra from Master of Wealth, was not what we expected. And I'm not sure if they meant it in a negative way, but in my opinion I think it's negative. Regardless of the voice acting quality or quality of the direction in general, I'm at least glad there's an English dub of the game because Champions is only in Japanese. And I imagine with this there's going to be some minor script changes because the script in Champions is pretty simple, to put it lightly. Let's see. Yes, the story, the last thing I'm going to be talking about in this discussion. I think the prologue is better than the mobile games. To be honest, the Wishvale stuff is just a drawn-out version of Champions opening, and I'm fine with that because it feels like Zero has a stronger motive for seeking out the 3 tyrants that then later leads to the restoration of Wishvale. I just wonder how much the Champion storyline is going to change. I know some lines are added for characters to kind of take note of Zero's story and just general presence, but that's about it. And as far as I'm aware, the majority of the cutscenes remain the same as they are in Champions. I found it quite disappointing that characters like Steer are effectively just relegated to the Wishvale storyline, despite the fact that she says that she's going to be by our side no matter what. And, you know, technically that's true. But you'd think that because her story with Wishvale is tied of, like, you know, Zero and stuff like that, you'd think that she'd also appear in the main stories, but I guess not. It creates this split between the Wishvale stuff and the main story, and I don't really like this because it's just this massive split between them where only Zero matters and then everyone else is on the sidelines. Not that this is an issue exclusive to Zero, it also happens in every other Octopath game, but it's kind of more understandable there. Not that I want to excuse it, but it's more understandable there because every character's story is their story, it's not really to do with anyone else's. Just like the mobile game, the stories are split up between the Master of Wealth, Power and Fame. Unsurprising, but I am curious how they're going to do the Traveler stories. Will they be the replacement for the side quests from other Octopath games? Is there going to be any other benefits for doing them? And this is the stuff I want to know because this is no longer a gacha game. So with that said, I'm hoping that these Traveler stories are going to give us more unique challenges as opposed to just being story and then a bit of like an easy boss at the end. I want something more grand. Another thing I want to talk about briefly is the tone, because Champion's tone is a bit more dark and serious compared to the other games, and you can even tell it from the title theme. One thing I noticed from playing Champions is that there's an increased prevalence of blood. Octopath is no stranger to doing some grotesque things, but blood is not really one of them, and I know it's a very, very minor thing, but it is something to note in my opinion. And I was worried that the console version, Zero, would not really incorporate blood at all, but based on the prologue boss, I think that's an issue I don't have to worry about. I could say a few other things, like what I think that might change later on, and probably will change later on in the story, but I'm not going to talk about those much because that'll be spoilers. But the opening of Zero has indicated there's probably going to be at least one major change later down the road. One change I'm curious about, it happens basically at the very end of Champions of the Continent, and I thought it was really cool, but they couldn't make it as cool as they could have on mobile. I'm going to assume there's limitations, but on console they have the opportunity to make it the coolest thing in Octopath history. If you've played Champions, you might know what I'm talking about, but I had to be vague here because, like I said, it happens at the very end of the game. And yeah, those are my first impressions. I look forward to it, but I'm just a bit cautious about it. That's about it. And I hope that anyone who's playing Zero or Champions by extension for the first time, I hope you do enjoy this game. There's less than a month until release, and I don't intend to play anytime soon. I'm currently playing Gravity Rush 2, and after that I intend to play Final Fantasy VII, the original version, and then maybe afterwards I'll start Zero. In fact, I might restart Zero because I might want to make a few changes to my current file. In any case, I hope it's another great Octopath game. 悪い子見つける癖